The rain tapped softly against the windows of our Seattle apartment, a gentle rhythm that usually soothed me. But tonight, it felt like a warning. I stood in our cramped kitchen, the glow of Nathan's phone casting sharp shadows across the counter. My hands trembled as I gripped the device, my coffee mug forgotten, growing cold beside the sink. The words on the screen burned into my mind, each one a dagger twisting deeper. She's clueless. After this deal, we're done with her. I walked to the corner of our living room, where my easel stood, a quiet sanctuary amid the chaos. Painting was my escape, something Nathan never understood. He'd called it a distraction, a waste of time when I could be working. But for me, it was clarity. Every brushstroke helped me think, helped me find my way through the noise. My latest piece was a lighthouse, its beam cutting through a stormy sea. It was inspired by our company's name, a symbol of guidance and hope. Tonight, staring at that half-finished canvas, I felt like I was the one lost in the storm. I picked up a brush, dipped it in deep blue, and let the paint flow. The motion steadied me, each stroke a reminder of who I was. I wasn't just Nathan's wife or Lighthouse's numbers girl. I was the one who'd built this company, who'd turned our dreams into reality. The lighthouse on my canvas glowed brighter as I worked, its light defiant against the darkness. And in that moment, I made a choice. I wouldn't let Nathan destroy me. Not tomorrow. Not ever. My phone buzzed, pulling me back to reality. It was Sarah, my best friend since college, checking in. "You ready for the big day?" her text read. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Sarah lived in San Francisco now, but we talked almost every day. She'd always been my rock, the one who saw through Nathan's charm when I was too blinded by love. I wanted to tell her everything, to pour out the pain and fear. But I couldn't. Not yet. Instead, I typed, "As ready as I'll ever be. Call you tomorrow?" Her reply was instant. "You've got this, Em. Shine bright." Shine bright. The words echoed in my mind, a spark of hope in the darkness. I glanced at Nathan's phone again, the screen still glowing with his betrayal. Chloe's name stared back at me, that heart emoji like a mocking grin. I could almost hear her laughter, see the smug satisfaction in Nathan's eyes as they planned my downfall. But they'd underestimated me. They thought I was oblivious, too wrapped up in my work to notice. They were wrong. I moved to the kitchen, my mind racing. The pitch was in 12 hours, a video call with North Star's leadership team, James Larson, their CEO, and a trio of investors who could make or break us. I'd prepared for every question, every objection. But now, I had to prepare for something else. Nathan's sabotage. The messages hinted at a plan to make me look incompetent, to humiliate me in front of the clients. I didn't know how, but I knew I had to be ready. I opened my laptop, pulling up the presentation one last time. The slides were flawless, each one a testament to months of research and passion. I'd analyzed North Star's operational inefficiencies, their market positioning, their growth potential. This wasn't just a pitch, it was a vision for their future, one I'd crafted with every ounce of my expertise. Nathan had contributed nothing but his charm, yet he thought he could claim it all. The thought made my blood boil, but I pushed it aside. Anger wouldn't help me now. Strategy would. I grabbed a notebook, jotting down every detail from the messages. Dates, times, phrases, anything that could protect me later. I didn't know what Nathan was planning, but I'd be damned if I let him win. As I wrote, my eyes drifted to the lighthouse painting again. The storm on the canvas was fierce, but the lighthouse stood tall, unyielding. That's who I had to be tomorrow. Unbreakable. Lighthouse will be ours. The message was from Nathan, my husband of 10 years, sent to someone named Chloe, his assistant, with a single red heart emoji beside her name. The rain slowed to a drizzle, and the apartment grew quiet. Nathan's footsteps creaked upstairs, then stopped. He'd be down soon, expecting the same trusting Emma he'd always known. But that Emma was gone. In her place was someone who saw through his lies, who knew her worth, who wouldn't let a single heart emoji or a poisoned plan dim her light. I closed the notebook, my resolve hardening. Tomorrow, I'd walk into that meeting with my head high. I'd deliver the pitch of my life. Not for Nathan, not for Lighthouse, but for me. For the woman who'd built this dream. For the artist who painted hope in the dark. For the strategist who'd outsmart the man who thought he could break her. The lighthouse on my canvas seemed to glow, its beam a promise. I'd guide myself through this storm. And when the sun rose, Nathan and Chloe would see exactly who they'd underestimated. My name is Emma Carter, and for a decade, I've poured my heart into Lighthouse Insights, the consulting firm Nathan and I built from nothing. We started in this very apartment, working late into the night, fueled by cheap takeout and dreams of something bigger. Seattle's tech scene was buzzing, and we wanted to be part of it. I was the strategist, the one who crafted every proposal, analyzed every dataset, and turned complex problems into elegant solutions. Nathan was the charmer, the one who won clients with his easy smile and quick wit. Together, we were unstoppable. At least, that's what I thought. The phone felt heavy in my hands, like it carried the weight of every sacrifice I'd made. 10 years of marriage, 10 years of building a business, 10 years of trusting him. I scrolled up, my breath catching as months of messages unfolded. Nathan and Chloe had been planning this for a long time. Intimate jokes, late-night meetups disguised as client dinners, and detailed schemes to push me out of Lighthouse after our biggest pitch yet, a multi-million-dollar deal with North Star Enterprises in Boston. "She's just the numbers girl," Nathan wrote in one message. "I'm the one they trust. Once this deal's done, we'll rebrand, and she's out." Chloe's reply was a string of laughing emojis, followed by, "Can't wait to see her crash tomorrow. She's so obsessed with that presentation." I closed my eyes, the sting of betrayal sharper than I'd ever imagined. Tomorrow's pitch was my masterpiece. For 6 months, I'd lived and breathed North Star's data, studying their market challenges, their competitors, their dreams of expansion. This deal could transform Lighthouse, put us on the map as a top-tier firm. I'd stayed up until dawn perfecting every slide, rehearsing every word, believing this was our moment. Nathan knew how much it meant to me. He'd watched me work, offered encouraging smiles, even brought me coffee during those endless nights. And all along, he'd been laughing behind my back, plotting to steal it all. The rain grew heavier, drumming against the glass. I set the phone down, my heart racing. Part of me wanted to scream, to confront him right then and there. Nathan was upstairs, supposedly on a client call, his voice a faint murmur through the ceiling. But I couldn't let him see my pain. Not yet. I'd learned to hide my emotions over the years, to keep my face calm, even when my world was crumbling. 10 years with a man who could charm anyone had taught me that much. The Seattle dawn was still dark, the city wrapped in a quiet mist that clung to the windows of our apartment. I sat cross-legged on the living room floor, my laptop humming softly beside me, the glow of the screen the only light in the room. The events of last night weighed heavy on my heart. Nathan's phone, its screen blazing with betrayal, had shattered the illusion of our partnership, our marriage, our dream. His words to Chloe, his assistant, echoed in my mind. "She's clueless." I'd studied North Star's operational challenges, their market position, their ambitions. This wasn't just a pitch. It was a roadmap to their success. One I'd built with every ounce of my skill. As I reviewed the slides, a memory surfaced. 2 years ago, Nathan had dismissed one of my ideas during a client meeting, laughing it off as too technical. The client had agreed with him, and I'd felt invisible. Later, I'd gone home and painted a stormy sea, the waves crashing against a lone rock. That painting hung in our office now, a quiet reminder of my resilience. Nathan never noticed it, but it was there, watching over me. Today, I'd need that strength more than ever. I opened my email, my heart pounding. Last night, I'd installed a monitoring app on our company server, a precaution after seeing Nathan's messages. The app had flagged an email he'd sent to Chloe at midnight while I was painting. "Everything's set for tomorrow. She'll crash and we'll take over. North Star won't know what hit them." The words sent a chill down my spine. He was so confident, so sure I'd fail. But he didn't know I was watching, that I was already one step ahead. I copied the email to my personal account, then deleted the notification from the server. Evidence. I needed as much as I could gather. I opened my journal again, adding more notes. Nathan's email confirms the plan. Chloe is complicit. I need to protect Lighthouse. Protect myself. My fingers paused, hovering over the keyboard. A small part of me still ached, still wanted to believe this was a mistake, that the man I'd loved for a decade hadn't turned against me. But the truth was undeniable. Nathan wasn't just betraying our marriage, he was stealing my life's work. I stood, pacing the apartment. The rain had stopped, and the first hints of dawn crept through the windows. I thought of Sarah, my best friend in San Francisco. She'd texted last night, cheering me on for the pitch. I wanted to call her, to tell her everything, but I couldn't risk it. Not yet. Instead, I sent a quick reply. Thanks for the support. I'll need it today. Talk soon. Sarah had always seen through Nathan's charm, warning me years ago to be careful. I hadn't listened then, but now her words gave me strength. I returned to my laptop, opening a new tab. The North Star pitch wasn't just about winning a contract. It was about proving my worth, to myself and to the world. I clicked through the slides again, memorizing every detail. If Nathan thought he could break me, he was wrong. I was the one who'd built Lighthouse, who'd turned our dreams into reality. And I wasn't going to let him take that away. A noise from upstairs broke my focus. Nathan was awake, his footsteps heavy on the creaky floorboards. My pulse quickened, but I forced myself to stay calm. I closed my journal, hid the monitoring app, and pulled up the presentation as if nothing was wrong. The mask was back in place, my smile ready. He'd walk in any moment, expecting the same trusting Emma he'd always known. But I wasn't that woman anymore. I was a strategist, a survivor, a lighthouse in the storm. I glanced at my painting across the room, the lighthouse glowing against the dark sea. It was more than a symbol now, it was a promise. Today, I'd face Nathan's betrayal head on. I'd protect my work, my future, my light. The coffee he'd bring me, the one I suspected he'd tamper with, would be my first test. I didn't know what he'd planned, but I knew I'd be ready. The calm before the storm was over. The battle was about to begin. After this deal, we're done with her. Today was the day they planned to destroy me. To humiliate me during the pitch to North Star Enterprises in Boston. But I wasn't going to let that happen. Not without a fight. My name is Emma Carter. And for 10 years, I've been the backbone of Lighthouse Insights, the consulting firm Nathan and I built from scratch in this very Seattle apartment. I crafted the strategies, the proposals, the visions that won us clients. Nathan was the face, the one who sealed deals with his charm. But today, everything rested on me. The North Star pitch was my creation. 6 months of sleepless nights and relentless research distilled into a presentation that could redefine our future. And Nathan, my husband, was planning to sabotage it, to make me look incompetent so he and Chloe could take Lighthouse for themselves. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. The air felt heavy, charged with the tension of what was to come. To steady myself, I opened my laptop and joined an online meditation group I'd found a few months ago. The facilitator's voice, calm and grounding, flowed through my earbuds. Focus on your breath. Let the worries slip away. I tried to let go, to anchor myself in the moment. Meditation had become my refuge, a way to quiet the noise of doubt and fear. As I breathed, I pictured a lighthouse, its beam cutting through a stormy sea, the same image I'd painted last night. It was a reminder of who I was, of the strength I'd always carried, even when Nathan made me feel small. The meditation ended, and I felt a flicker of clarity. I couldn't change what Nathan had done, but I could control what happened next. I opened my digital journal, an app I'd started using to track my thoughts and ideas. It was my private space, a place where I could be honest, even when the world demanded I hide my pain. I typed quickly, my fingers flying over the keys. Nathan is planning to sabotage me. He's been plotting with Chloe for months. I don't know how he'll do it, but I suspect it's the coffee. He's too deliberate, too careful. I need to be ready. Writing it down made it real, but it also made me feel powerful. Every word was a step toward reclaiming my story. I glanced at the clock. 5:30 a.m. Nathan was still asleep upstairs, or so I assumed. He'd come down soon, all smiles and false affection, pretending everything was normal. I had to play along, to keep him from suspecting I knew the truth. 10 years of marriage had taught me how to wear a mask, to smile through his subtle manipulations. But today, that mask would be my weapon. I moved to my desk, pulling up the North Star presentation. The slides were perfect, each one a testament to my expertise. The Seattle morning was sharp and cold, the kind that seeped into your bones if you stood still too long. I sat at our kitchen table, my laptop open to the North Star Enterprises presentation, its slides glowing like a beacon in the dim light. The apartment was quiet, save for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of floorboards upstairs where Nathan was getting ready. My heart pounded, a steady rhythm of anticipation and dread. Big day, I echoed, forcing a smile. 10 years of marriage had taught me how to hide my emotions, to play the part of the trusting wife. But inside, my mind was racing. I watched his hands, the way he stirred my coffee with extra care, his fingers lingering on the mug. Was that a flicker of satisfaction in his eyes? I couldn't be sure, but I wasn't taking chances. "I'll make us some coffee," Nathan said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. He set my mug down in front of me, the dark roast aroma familiar and comforting. "Drink up, you'll need the energy." His smile was too perfect, too deliberate. I took a small sip, watching his face for any sign of intent. The coffee tasted normal, but I wasn't fooled. "Not today." "Thanks," I said warmly, leaning back in my chair. "You always take such good care of me." The words felt like ash in my mouth, but they did the trick. Nathan's shoulders relaxed, his guard down. His phone buzzed, and he glanced at it, Chloe, no doubt. "I need to grab something upstairs," he said, already moving toward the hallway. "Can you pull up the presentation? I want everything ready." The second he was gone, I sprang into action. My heart pounded as I swapped the mugs, my hands moving with the precision of someone who'd spent years perfecting details. His mug went to my spot, mine to his. It was done in seconds, but the weight of the act settled over me like a storm cloud. Was this right? Was I stooping to his level? The jazz melody swelled, grounding me. This wasn't revenge, it was self-defense. Nathan had crossed a line, and I was drawing one of my own. I settled back into my chair, pulling up the presentation as if nothing had happened. But my mind was elsewhere, racing through the steps I'd taken to protect myself. Early this morning, while Nathan slept, I'd called Michael Tran, a lawyer who'd helped me with a contract dispute years ago. "Michael, it's Emma Carter," I'd whispered, my voice steady despite the hour. "I need your help. My husband's planning something that could destroy our business. Can we meet today?" Michael had been calm, professional, promising to review any evidence I could provide. I'd also sent a coded text to Sarah, my best friend in San Francisco. "Big day. Might need you to back me up. We'll explain later." Sarah's reply was instant. "Whatever you need, I'm here." These small acts, calling Michael, texting Sarah, swapping the mugs, felt like lifelines, tethering me to a future I could still control. But they also stirred a deeper conflict. I'd always prided myself on integrity, on doing things the right way. Swapping the coffee felt like crossing a moral line, even if it was to protect myself. I thought of my lighthouse painting, its beam cutting through the storm. That light wasn't just hope, it was truth. Could I hold on to that truth while playing Nathan's game? The jazz track shifted to a slower, soulful tune, and I let it guide me back to clarity. This wasn't about sinking to Nathan's level. It was about rising above it. The coffee swap was a calculated move, a way to turn his betrayal against him. But it was only the beginning. I opened my digital journal, adding a quick note. Swapped the mugs, called Michael, texted Sarah. Whatever Nathan's planning, I'm ready. Writing it down made it real, a commitment to myself. Nathan returned, his confidence unshaken. He sat down, picking up what he thought was his mug, and took a long sip. His smile was oblivious, perfect. I mirrored it, my own mug warm in my hands. The presentation was loaded, the meeting with North Star just an hour away. James Larson, their CEO, would be watching, along with investors who could make or break Lighthouse. I'd prepared for every question, every challenge. But now, I was preparing for something else. Nathan's downfall. Last night, I'd uncovered his betrayal messages to Chloe, his assistant, plotting to humiliate me during today's pitch and steal Lighthouse Insights, the consulting firm we'd built together. Today was their day to execute that plan, and I suspected it started with the coffee Nathan would soon bring me. My name is Emma Carter, and for 10 years, I've been the strategist behind Lighthouse Insights, crafting the proposals and solutions that made us a name in Seattle's competitive tech scene. Nathan was the charmer, the one who won clients with his easy grin. But this pitch to North Star Enterprises in Boston was my creation. 6 months of relentless work to secure a deal that could redefine our future. Nathan's messages revealed he'd planned to sabotage me, likely by tampering with my coffee to make me falter during the presentation. I couldn't prove it yet, but the thought alone was enough to make my skin crawl. I glanced at the 2 coffee mugs on the counter, his and hers, a matching set we'd bought on a trip to San Francisco years ago. The irony wasn't lost on me. Those mugs had once symbolized our partnership, our shared dreams. Now, one of them might hold my downfall. I closed my laptop, my hands trembling slightly. The presentation was ready, every slide flawless, every statistic airtight. But this wasn't just about delivering a pitch. It was about survival, about protecting the life I'd built from the man who'd promised to share it with me. To steady myself, I pulled out my phone and opened a jazz playlist, a soft saxophone melody filling the air. Jazz was my secret weapon, a way to calm my nerves and sharpen my focus. The notes wrapped around me like a warm blanket, reminding me of late nights painting in my corner of the living room where I'd lose myself in colors and light. Painting was my refuge, but music was my clarity. As the melody played, I felt my resolve harden. Nathan thought he could break me, but he didn't know the woman I'd become. Footsteps on the stairs snapped me back to the moment. Nathan appeared, dressed in a crisp navy suit, his dark hair neatly combed, his green eyes bright, with a confidence that now felt sinister. "Morning, honey," he said, his voice smooth as ever. "Big day today." He moved to the coffee maker, pouring 2 mugs with practiced ease. My pulse quickened. This was it. The moment I'd been dreading and preparing for. The Seattle morning felt electric, the air charged with possibility and peril. I sat at our home office desk, the laptop screen glowing with the North Star Enterprises presentation, its slides a testament to 6 months of my blood, sweat, and dreams. Across from me, Nathan adjusted his tie, his navy suit crisp, his smile as polished as ever. But I knew the truth behind that smile. Hours ago, I'd swapped our coffee mugs, turning his sabotage against him. Our analysis shows North Star faces 3 key challenges, I began, guiding the board to highlight operational inefficiencies. First, your regional offices operate with redundant processes, costing you 15% in annual efficiency. The board animated, color-coded bars rising to illustrate the point. Olivia Grant leaned forward, her eyes locked on the screen. Nathan shifted in his seat, clearing his throat. "Exactly," he said, jumping in. "Our research indicates." He paused, blinking hard, his words slower than usual. "Indicates that streamlining these processes could save millions." The hesitation was subtle, but James Larson's eyebrows rose slightly. In the high-stakes world of consulting, even a minor stumble could raise doubts. I kept my expression neutral, clicking to the next slide. "To address this," I said, "we propose a phased integration plan, starting with your Boston headquarters." I pulled up a short video I'd prepared, a testimonial from a previous client, a Seattle-based tech firm we'd helped grow. The client's CEO spoke directly to the camera, praising Lighthouse's tailored solutions. "Emma's strategies doubled our efficiency," he said. "She's the real deal." I'd included the video to humanize our pitch, to show North Star the trust we'd earned. The investors' faces softened, impressed. Nathan took another sip of coffee, his movements sluggish. "The technical aspects are complex," he said, his voice slightly off, as if he were searching for words. He rubbed his temple, a gesture that didn't go unnoticed. Laura Bennett exchanged a glance with James. I seized the moment, my voice clear and confident. The technical integration leverages AI-driven analytics, I said, zooming in on the digital board to display a flowchart. This ensures real-time data sharing across your offices, reducing delays by 20%. The contrast was stark. I was in my element, weaving data and vision into a compelling narrative, while Nathan struggled to keep up. His plan to make me falter was backfiring, and the irony was exquisite. But I couldn't let myself gloat. Not yet. The stakes were too high, and North Star's leadership was watching every move. I thought of my lighthouse painting, its beam cutting through the storm. That light was my guide, keeping me focused on the truth. I was the one who'd built this presentation, this company, this dream. Nathan tried to interject again. Our projections show... He stopped, blinking rapidly, his hand gripping the mug as if for balance. The room felt smaller, the tension palpable. I stepped in smoothly. Our projections, based on 3 years of market data, show a 25% growth potential within 18 months, I said, clicking to a detailed graph. Olivia Grant scribbled notes, her expression one of genuine excitement. I could feel the momentum shifting, the investors' trust tilting toward me. The jazz melody I'd played earlier echoed in my mind, its soulful notes a reminder to stay calm, to stay sharp. I thought of Sarah, my best friend in San Francisco, who'd texted me last night. Shine bright. I was shining, not for Nathan, not for Lighthouse, but for myself. For the woman who'd spent years in the shadows, letting Nathan take the spotlight. Today, that changed. The mug he thought was mine, likely laced with something to make me falter, now sat in front of him. He'd taken a generous sip, oblivious, and now the clock was ticking. The video call with North Star's leadership in Boston was moments away, and I was ready to fight for everything I'd built. Nathan's face was pale now, his confidence crumbling. He took another sip of coffee, as if it might clear his head, unaware that each sip was deepening his downfall. I kept my focus on the presentation, answering a question from Laura about scalability with precision. Our model is adaptable, I said. Built to grow with North Star's ambitions. James nodded, his sharp eyes softening with approval. The meeting was only 10 minutes in, but I could feel the tide turning. Nathan's sabotage, meant to destroy me, was destroying him instead. I thought of my call to Michael Tran, my lawyer, early this morning, securing my legal protections, of my coded text to Sarah, ensuring I had support, of the digital journal where I documented every step. I was ready for whatever came next. The lighthouse in my mind glowed brighter, its beam unwavering. This was my moment, my chance to claim the life I'd built. Nathan thought he could dim my light, but he was wrong. As I moved to the next slide, my voice strong and clear, I knew I was just getting started. My name is Emma Carter, and for a decade, I've been the strategist behind Lighthouse Insights, the consulting firm Nathan and I founded in our Seattle apartment. I crafted the solutions that won us clients, while Nathan charmed them into signing. But today's pitch to North Star was my masterpiece, a chance to secure a multi-million-dollar deal that could redefine our future. Nathan and his assistant, Chloe, had plotted to humiliate me during this meeting, to make me look incompetent so they could steal Lighthouse. Their plan, revealed in damning messages I'd found last night, hinged on my failure. But I wasn't going to fail. Not today. The laptop chimed, signaling the start of the call. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding, but my face calm. 10 years of marriage to a manipulator had taught me how to hide my nerves. The screen filled with faces. James Larson, North Star's CEO, a sharp-eyed man in his 60s, Laura Bennett, their chief operating officer, and 3 investors, including Olivia Grant, whose keen interest I'd noted in our preliminary talks. Good morning, everyone, James said, his voice clear through our speakers. We're eager to see what Lighthouse Insights has in store. Nathan leaned forward, his confidence unshaken. Thank you, James, he said, his tone warm and commanding. Emma and I have worked tirelessly to create a strategy that will transform North Star's operations. I noticed the emphasis on Emma and I, a subtle claim to leadership, but as he reached for his coffee mug, his hand trembled slightly. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but I saw it. The substance he'd intended for me was starting to take effect. I smiled, my voice steady. "It's an honor to present to you today," I said. "North Star's reputation for innovation inspires us, and we're thrilled to propose a partnership that aligns with your vision." The investors nodded, their expressions attentive. This was the professionalism they expected, and I was determined to deliver. I clicked to the first slide, launching an interactive digital board I'd designed to visualize North Star's data. The board was my innovation, a dynamic tool that let me manipulate charts and metrics in real time, making the presentation engaging and precise. The Seattle air felt alive, humming with the weight of the moment. Our home office was a battlefield, the laptop screen a blazing arena where my future hung in the balance. 15 minutes into the video call with North Star Enterprises in Boston, Nathan's carefully laid plan was crumbling. His words slurred, his hands trembled, and his once charming smile faltered under the effects of the coffee I'd swapped the coffee he'd meant to sabotage me with. That light was me now, guiding this pitch to safety. I transitioned to a personal story, a touch I'd added to connect with North Star's team. 10 years ago, I said, my voice warm, Nathan and I started Lighthouse in our Seattle apartment, dreaming of solving problems like yours. I remember analyzing our first client's data until 3 a.m., fueled by coffee and hope. That's the passion behind this proposal. The investors smiled, drawn in by the authenticity. James nodded, his stern demeanor softening. Storytelling was risky in a high-stakes pitch, but I knew it would make us human, not just consultants. My phone buzzed silently in my pocket, a text from Sarah, my best friend in San Francisco. I'd sent her a coded message earlier, hinting at trouble. Her reply was short, "You're killing it, Em. Keep shining." I didn't need to check the screen to feel her support. Sarah's words were a lifeline, a reminder that I wasn't alone. I pressed on, introducing a bold new idea, an AI-driven platform to optimize North Star's workflows. This platform, I said, displaying a mock-up on the digital board, uses predictive analytics to anticipate market shifts, giving you a competitive edge. Olivia Grant's eyes lit up, and Laura scribbled furiously. The idea was mine, born from late-night research Nathan had dismissed as overkill. Now, it was captivating our audience. Nathan's condition worsened. "The implementation," he started, his voice trailing off as he gripped the desk. His face was pale, his confidence gone. James intervened, his tone polite but firm. "Mr. Carter, are you feeling all right?" The question was a death knell in the world of consulting, where reliability was everything. Nathan shook his head, trying to rally. "I'm fine," he said, but his words slurred, and he took another sip of the tainted coffee, sealing his fate. I stepped in, my voice gentle but authoritative. "Nathan's been working around the clock," I said, a half-truth that painted him as dedicated rather than deceitful. "I'd be happy to take over while he catches his breath." It was a masterstroke professional, compassionate, and strategic. James nodded, and Laura's expression softened with gratitude. I clicked to the next slide, diving into our implementation timeline. Phase 1 begins with a 90-day pilot in Boston, I said, delivering measurable results within the first quarter. The digital board animated, showing a clear roadmap. The investors were riveted, their trust shifting to me. The jazz melody I'd played earlier echoed in my mind, its soulful notes urging me to stay focused. This was my element, where data met vision, where strategy became art. I thought of my call to Michael Tran, my lawyer, securing legal protections, of my journal entries documenting Nathan's betrayal, of Sarah's unwavering support. Every step had led to this moment, where I was no longer Nathan's shadow but the leader of this pitch, this company, this dream. Nathan tried to speak again, his voice barely coherent. "The metrics." He swayed slightly, his hand fumbling with the mug. Olivia Grant's pen stopped, her gaze shifting to me. I seized the opportunity, answering a question from Laura about scalability with precision. Our model adapts to North Star's growth, I said, ensuring flexibility across markets. The investors nodded, impressed. I was rewriting the narrative, proving I was the true force behind Lighthouse. I sat beside him, my heart racing but my voice steady, as I seized control of the presentation that could make or break Lighthouse Insights. This was my moment, and I was ready to shine. The lighthouse in my mind glowed brighter, its beam cutting through the chaos. I thought of my painting, of the stormy sea I'd captured, and realized I was navigating that storm now. Nathan's plan to dim my light had failed. Instead, I was shining brighter than ever, not for him, not for approval, but for myself. For the woman who'd built this company from nothing. For the strategist who'd outsmarted a traitor. 20 minutes into the meeting, the tide had turned. Nathan was fading, his sabotage a self-inflicted wound. I was in control, my voice strong, my vision clear. The North Star team was captivated, and I could feel the deal within reach. But this was only the beginning. I had more to prove, more to protect. As I moved to the next slide, my resolve hardened. Nathan thought he could break me, but he was wrong. I was Emma Carter, the lighthouse, the storm's conqueror, and I was just getting started. My name is Emma Carter, and for 10 years, I've been the strategist behind Lighthouse Insights, the consulting firm Nathan and I built from our Seattle apartment. I crafted the solutions that won us clients, while Nathan dazzled them with his charisma. But this pitch to North Star was my creation, a 6-month labor of love that could secure a multi-million-dollar deal. Nathan and his assistant, Chloe, had schemed to humiliate me today, to make me falter so they could steal the company. Their plan, uncovered in damning messages last night, was backfiring spectacularly. As Nathan struggled, I stepped into the spotlight, determined to claim what was mine. The screen glowed with North Star's leadership. James Larson, the CEO, his sharp eyes missing nothing. Laura Bennett, the Chief Operating Officer, her expression attentive, and 3 investors, including Olivia Grant, whose notes signaled keen interest. Nathan's voice wavered as he tried to explain our data integration strategy. "It's complex," he mumbled, rubbing his temple, his coffee mug clutched like a lifeline. The substance he'd intended for me was clouding his mind, and the room felt smaller with every stumble. James's brow furrowed, a silent question hanging in the air. I saw my opening and took it. "Let me clarify," I said, my voice clear and confident, cutting through the tension like a lighthouse beam through fog. North Star's current systems operate in silos, creating delays that cost you roughly $2 million annually in missed opportunities. I clicked to an interactive digital board, my innovation for this pitch, and manipulated a live chart to show the inefficiencies. The colors shifted, the data danced, and Olivia Grant leaned forward, her pen pausing. I'd spent weeks perfecting this tool, knowing it would make our proposal unforgettable. Nathan tried to interject, his words sluggish. "We've modeled this." He blinked hard, his hand shaking as he reached for his coffee again. Laura Bennett's eyes darted to him, concern etched on her face. I kept my expression neutral, but inside, my heart soared. The irony was poetic. Nathan, who'd planned to watch me crash, was unraveling before the very clients he'd hoped to impress. I thought of my lighthouse painting, its light defiant against the storm. The Seattle sunlight streamed through our home office window, casting golden rays across the desk where my laptop glowed with the North Star Enterprises presentation. 30 minutes into the video call, the room pulsed with a quiet intensity, a battle won not with shouts, but with precision and grace. Nathan sat beside me, his face ashen, his once confident voice reduced to a slurred whisper. Olivia Grant's pen flew across her notepad, and Laura leaned forward, captivated. I wove in a story, a touch I'd planned to make our pitch unforgettable. "When I started Lighthouse," I said, my voice soft but clear, "I was driven by a belief that every business deserves clarity, like a lighthouse guiding ships to shore. That's why we've tailored this plan to North Star's unique needs." The investors smiled, drawn in by the sincerity. It was a risk, blending personal passion with hard data, but it worked. James's stern demeanor softened, and I felt the room shift, their trust now fully mine. My phone buzzed silently, a text from Sarah, my best friend in San Francisco. You're a rock star, Em. Own this moment. Her words, sent after my coded plea for support, were a spark of warmth in the storm. Sarah had always believed in me, even when I doubted myself. I pressed on, unveiling my boldest idea, an AI-driven platform to predict market trends. This platform, I said, displaying a sleek mock-up, gives Northstar a competitive edge, adapting in real time to your needs. The investor's eyes lit up, and Laura scribbled notes, clearly impressed. The idea was mine, born from late nights Nathan had mocked as unnecessary. Now, it was the centerpiece of our pitch. Nathan slumped in his chair, his condition deteriorating. "Mrs. Carter," James said, his voice cutting through the silence. "Perhaps Mr. Carter should step away." It was a polite dismissal, but in the world of consulting, it was devastating. Nathan looked at me, his eyes clouded with confusion, and was it fear? He mumbled, "I need air," and stumbled out of the room, his footsteps unsteady. The door closed behind him, and for the first time in years, I felt free. Free to lead, to shine, to be the woman I'd always been. I turned to the camera, my expression professional but warm. "I apologize for the interruption," I said. "Nathan's dedication to this project has been immense. Let's continue." The lie was strategic, preserving Lighthouse's reputation while I took command. I moved to the next slide, diving into financial projections. Our models, based on 5 years of market data, project a 22% ROI within 18 months, I said, my voice ringing with confidence. The digital board displayed a graph, its lines soaring. Olivia Grant nodded, her excitement palpable. An email notification popped up later, after the meeting, a message from a young Northstar employee, Mia, who'd watched the pitch. "Your presentation inspired me," she wrote. "I'm studying data science and want to be like you." The words hit me like a wave, a reminder that my success wasn't just for me. I thought of a new idea, scribbled in my journal that morning. A scholarship fund for women in consulting. Mia's email made it real. A vision for giving back, for lighting the way for others. The coffee he'd meant to sabotage me with the mug I'd swapped in a moment of desperate clarity had stripped away his charm, leaving him a shadow of the man who'd planned to steal Lighthouse Insights. I stood at the helm of our pitch, my voice strong, my heart alight with a fire I hadn't felt in years. This was the turning point, the moment I claimed my future. The jazz melody I'd played earlier echoed in my mind, its soulful notes urging me forward. I thought of my lighthouse painting, its beam cutting through the storm. That light was my truth, my strength. I thought of Michael Tran, my lawyer, waiting to protect my rights. Of Sarah, cheering me on from afar. Of my journal, documenting every step. This moment was mine, earned through years of work and one night of courage. As I answered Laura's question about scalability with precision, I felt a surge of elation. Nathan's plan had failed, his betrayal a self-inflicted wound. I was in control, not just of the pitch, but of my future. The Northstar team was captivated, the deal within reach. But I knew the fight wasn't over. Nathan's exit was only the beginning. I had to protect Lighthouse, my legacy, my light. The lighthouse in my mind glowed brighter, its beam unwavering. I was Emma Carter, the strategist, the visionary, the survivor. As I moved to the final slides, my voice strong and clear, I knew this was more than a pitch. It was a declaration. Nathan thought he could break me, but he was wrong. I was the storm's conqueror, and I was just getting started. My name is Emma Carter, and for a decade, I've been the strategist behind Lighthouse Insights, the consulting firm Nathan and I built from our Seattle apartment. I crafted the solutions that won us clients, while Nathan sealed deals with his charisma. But this pitch to Northstar in Boston was my creation, a 6-month odyssey of research and vision that could secure a transformative deal. Nathan and his assistant Chloe had schemed to humiliate me today, to make me falter so they could take the company. Their plan, exposed in messages I'd found last night, had collapsed under the weight of their own treachery. As Nathan faded, I rose, proving I was the true force behind Lighthouse. The screen displayed Northstar's leadership. James Larson, the CEO, his sharp eyes now warm with interest. Laura Bennett, the chief operating officer, nodding thoughtfully, and 3 investors, including Olivia Grant, whose furious note-taking signaled approval. Nathan's last attempt to speak had been a disaster. The timeline, he'd mumbled, his words dissolving into a haze as he gripped the desk for balance. The coffee's effects were undeniable. Noah's hands shook, his eyes blinked rapidly, and his voice was barely coherent. James had intervened, his tone polite but firm. "Mr. Carter, perhaps you should rest." Nathan tried to protest, his voice a weak croak. "I'm fine." But he swayed, his hand fumbling for the mug, taking another sip of his own poison. The irony was exquisite, but I felt a pang of something unexpected compassion. 10 years of marriage, of shared dreams, lingered in my heart, even now. I pushed the feeling aside, focusing on the task at hand. This was no time for sentiment. I stepped in, my voice steady and warm. "Nathan's been pushing himself hard," I said, a half-truth that preserved his dignity while shifting focus to me. "I'd be happy to guide us through the rest." James nodded, his expression one of trust. "Please, Mrs. Carter, continue." The words were a lifeline, a signal that the room was mine. I clicked to the next slide, my interactive digital board springing to life with a detailed implementation timeline. "Our strategy unfolds in 3 phases," I said, manipulating the board to highlight milestones. Phase 1, launching in Boston, delivers a 15% efficiency boost within 90 days. The board animated, color-coded bars rising to illustrate the plan. The Seattle skyline shimmered under a rare spring sun, its light reflecting off the glass towers and into my new office at Lighthouse Insights. 3 weeks had passed since the North Star Enterprises pitch, a day that had changed everything. The memory of Nathan's collapse undone by the coffee he'd meant to sabotage me with still lingered, but it was overshadowed by the victory I'd claimed. The legal battle was over, the divorce finalized, and Lighthouse was mine. The event was intimate, attended by Sarah, my best friend from San Francisco, and a few colleagues. Each sale felt like a step toward healing, the proceeds sowing seeds for others' dreams. Sarah had hugged me afterward, her voice thick with pride. "You're not just surviving, Em, you're creating." The exhibition had sparked another idea. A partnership with a Seattle nonprofit supporting women entrepreneurs. I'd met their director Elena at the gallery, and we'd bonded over shared visions. "Your story could inspire our clients," she'd said. I agreed to collaborate, offering workshops to teach business strategy, a way to give back while honoring my journey. The thought of empowering others, like Mia, the young North Star employee who'd emailed me after the pitch, filled me with purpose. Mia's words, "I want to be like you," had planted the seed for the scholarship, and now, with Lighthouse thriving, I could make it real. I opened my digital journal where I'd chronicled every step of this saga. "Justice served," I typed. "Lighthouse is mine. The scholarship is next. The blog launches soon." The blog, an anonymous platform to share my story, was my way of helping women spot manipulation in their careers. I'd written the first post last night, pouring out the pain and power of that fateful morning. It was raw, honest, a lighthouse beam for others lost in their storms. The act of writing felt like painting, each word a brushstroke of truth. My phone buzzed a message from James Larson, North Star's CEO. "Emma, your professionalism under pressure was remarkable," he wrote. "We're finalizing the contract. Expect a call tomorrow." The words were a validation, not just of the pitch, but of me. James's focus on my expertise, not Lighthouse's, was a subtle shift, one I'd earned. I thought of the email I'd sent him after the pitch, carefully addressing Nathan's condition while affirming my commitment. That strategic move, like every step since, had paved the way for this moment. Yet, even in triumph, sorrow lingered. I thought of Nathan, now a stranger, his charm extinguished by his own arrogance. The man who'd brought me coffee with a smile, who'd vowed to build a life with me, was gone. I didn't hate him, I mourned him, the version I'd loved before the truth. I thought of our San Francisco trip, buying those matching mugs, laughing under the Golden Gate Bridge. Those memories were part of me, but they no longer defined me. I was more than Nathan's wife, more than his shadow. I stood, walking to the window. Seattle's skyline stretched before me, a city of possibility. I thought of the jazz melody I'd played before the pitch, its soulful notes guiding me through chaos. Music, painting, writing, they were my anchors, my ways of navigating the storm. I thought of Sarah, whose support never wavered, of Michael Tran, whose legal acumen protected me, of Mia and Elena, whose belief in me fueled my vision. Yet, as I sat at my desk, surrounded by the hum of a thriving business, I felt a complex tapestry of emotions: triumph for my hard-won justice, sorrow for the marriage I'd lost, and hope for the future I was building. This was the moment justice was served, not with vengeance, but with truth. Justice wasn't just about winning, it was about building, creating, shining. I returned to my desk, opening the financial projections for North Star. The deal was poised to boost Lighthouse's revenue by 30%, a foundation for growth. I jotted a note about the scholarship, sketching a logo inspired by my lighthouse painting. The future felt vast, not daunting. Nathan had thought he could dim my light, but he'd only made it brighter. Chloe's apology, the exhibition, the nonprofit partnership, they were proof that my story wasn't just survival but transformation. The lighthouse in my mind glowed, its beam unwavering. I was Emma Carter, the strategist, the artist, the survivor. As I closed my journal, the Seattle sun warmed the room, a promise of new beginnings. Justice had been served, not with anger but with purpose. I'd reclaimed my company, my voice, my light, and as I looked toward the horizon, I knew this was only the start of what I'd build. My name is Emma Carter, and for a decade I'd been the strategist behind Lighthouse Insights, the consulting firm Nathan and I founded in our Seattle apartment. I crafted the solutions that won us clients, while Nathan's charm sealed the deals. The North Star pitch, a 6-month labor of love, had been my triumph, securing a multi-million-dollar deal despite Nathan and his assistant, Chloe, plotting to humiliate me and steal the company. Their scheme, exposed in messages I'd found the night before the pitch, had collapsed when I swapped the coffee mugs, turning Nathan's sabotage against him. Now, with the legal dust settled, I was rewriting my story, one of resilience and purpose. The divorce had been swift, thanks to Michael Tran, my lawyer, whose expertise turned my evidence into an airtight case. The audio of Nathan's slurred performance during the pitch, the screenshots of his texts with Chloe plotting my ouster, and the toxicology report revealing a mild sedative in his system had left Nathan's defense in tatters. He'd tried to claim he'd been drugged unknowingly, but the messages, filled with his smug plans to watch Emma crash, destroyed his credibility. His lawyer advised a quick settlement, and I walked away with full ownership of Lighthouse, its client list, and every piece of intellectual property I'd created. The financial audit, prompted by my discovery of Nathan's secret withdrawals, further sealed his fate, proving he'd siphoned funds for months. Chloe's fall was just as swift. I'd forwarded her inappropriate messages to her professional licensing board, and within days, she was terminated from her role. Seattle's consulting world was small, and her reputation was effectively ruined. But then, unexpectedly, she emailed me. "Emma, I'm sorry," she wrote. "I was caught up in Nathan's promises. I never meant to hurt you." The apology was raw, tinged with regret. I stared at the screen, my heart torn. Part of me wanted to ignore her, to let her fade into the consequences of her actions. But another part, the part that painted lighthouses through storms, chose compassion. I replied, "I appreciate your words, Chloe. I wish you well, but we're done here." Forgiveness didn't mean trust. It meant freedom for me. I leaned back in my chair, my eyes drifting to the lighthouse painting I'd hung in the office. Its beam cut through a stormy sea, a symbol of the light I'd held onto through this ordeal. That light had guided me to this moment, where justice wasn't just a legal win but a reclamation of my worth. I thought of the small art exhibition I'd organized last weekend at a Portland gallery, showcasing my paintings to raise funds for a scholarship for women in consulting. The Seattle skyline shimmered under a rare spring sun, its light reflecting off the glass towers and into my new office at Lighthouse Insights. 3 weeks had passed since the North Star Enterprises pitch, a day that had changed everything. The memory of Nathan's collapse undone by the coffee he'd meant to sabotage me with still lingered, but it was overshadowed by the victory I'd claimed. The legal battle was over, the divorce finalized, and Lighthouse was mine. The event was intimate, attended by Sarah, my best friend from San Francisco, and a few colleagues. Each sale felt like a step toward healing, the proceeds sowing seeds for others' dreams. Sarah had hugged me afterward, her voice thick with pride. "You're not just surviving, Em, you're creating." The exhibition had sparked another idea, a partnership with a Seattle nonprofit supporting women entrepreneurs. I'd met their director, Elena, at the gallery, and we'd bonded over shared visions. "Your story could inspire our clients," she'd said. I agreed to collaborate, offering workshops to teach business strategy, a way to give back while honoring my journey. The thought of empowering others, like Mia, the young North Star employee who'd emailed me after the pitch, filled me with purpose. Mia's words, "I want to be like you," had planted the seed for the scholarship, and now, with Lighthouse thriving, I could make it real. I opened my digital journal, where I'd chronicled every step of this saga. "Justice served," I typed. "Lighthouse is mine. The scholarship is next. The blog launches soon." The blog, an anonymous platform to share my story, was my way of helping women spot manipulation in their careers. I'd written the first post last night, pouring out the pain and power of that fateful morning. It was raw, honest, a lighthouse beam for others lost in their storms. The act of writing felt like painting, each word a brushstroke of truth. My phone buzzed a message from James Larson, North Star's CEO. "Emma, your professionalism under pressure was remarkable," he wrote. "We're finalizing the contract. Expect a call tomorrow." The words were a validation, not just of the pitch, but of me. James's focus on my expertise, not Lighthouse's, was a subtle shift, one I'd earned. I thought of the email I'd sent him after the pitch, carefully addressing Nathan's condition while affirming my commitment. That strategic move, like every step since, had paved the way for this moment. Yet, even in triumph, sorrow lingered. I thought of Nathan, now a stranger, his charm extinguished by his own arrogance. The man who'd brought me coffee with a smile, who'd vowed to build a life with me, was gone. I didn't hate him. I mourned him, the version I'd loved before the truth. I thought of our San Francisco trip, buying those matching mugs, laughing under the Golden Gate Bridge. Those memories were part of me, but they no longer defined me. I was more than Nathan's wife, more than his shadow. I stood, walking to the window. Seattle's skyline stretched before me, a city of possibility. I thought of the jazz melody I'd played before the pitch, its soulful notes guiding me through chaos. Music, painting, writing, they were my anchors, my ways of navigating the storm. I thought of Sarah, whose support never wavered. Of Michael Tran, whose legal acumen protected me. Of Mia and Elena, whose belief in me fueled my vision. Yet, as I sat at my desk, surrounded by the hum of a thriving business, I felt a complex tapestry of emotions. Triumph for my hard-won justice, sorrow for the marriage I'd lost, and hope for the future I was building. This was the moment justice was served, not with vengeance, but with truth. Justice wasn't just about winning, it was about building, creating, shining. I returned to my desk, opening the financial projections for North Star. The deal was poised to boost Lighthouse's revenue by 30%, a foundation for growth. I jotted a note about the scholarship, sketching a logo inspired by my lighthouse painting. The future felt vast, not daunting. Nathan had thought he could dim my light, but he'd only made it brighter. Chloe's apology, the exhibition, the nonprofit partnership, they were proof that my story wasn't just survival but transformation. The lighthouse in my mind glowed, its beam unwavering. I was Emma Carter, the strategist, the artist, the survivor. As I closed my journal, the Seattle sun warmed the room, a promise of new beginnings. Justice had been served, not with anger, but with purpose. I'd reclaimed my company, my voice, my light, and as I looked toward the horizon, I knew this was only the start of what I'd build. My name is Emma Carter, and for a decade, I'd been the strategist behind Lighthouse Insights, the consulting firm Nathan and I founded in our Seattle apartment. I crafted the solutions that won us clients, while Nathan's charm sealed the deals. The North Star pitch, a 6-month labor of love, had been my triumph, securing a multi-million-dollar deal despite Nathan and his assistant Chloe plotting to humiliate me and steal the company. Their scheme, exposed in messages I'd found the night before the pitch, had collapsed when I swapped the coffee mugs, turning Nathan's sabotage against him. Now, with the legal dust settled, I was rewriting my story, one of resilience and purpose. The divorce had been swift, thanks to Michael Tran, my lawyer, whose expertise turned my evidence into an airtight case. The audio of Nathan's slurred performance during the pitch, the screenshots of his texts with Chloe plotting my ouster, and the toxicology report revealing a mild sedative in his system had left Nathan's defense in tatters. He tried to claim he'd been drugged unknowingly, but the messages, filled with his smug plans to watch Emma crash, destroyed his credibility. His lawyer advised a quick settlement, and I walked away with full ownership of Lighthouse, its client list, and every piece of intellectual property I'd created. The financial audit, prompted by my discovery of Nathan's secret withdrawals, further sealed his fate, proving he'd siphoned funds for months. Chloe's fall was just as swift. I'd forwarded her inappropriate messages to her professional licensing board, and within days, she was terminated from her role. Seattle's consulting world was small, and her reputation was effectively ruined. But then, unexpectedly, she emailed me. "Emma, I'm sorry," she wrote. "I was caught up in Nathan's promises. I never meant to hurt you." The apology was raw, tinged with regret. I stared at the screen, my heart torn. Part of me wanted to ignore her, to let her fade into the consequences of her actions. But another part, the part that painted lighthouses through storms, chose compassion. I replied, "I appreciate your words, Chloe. I wish you well, but we're done here." Forgiveness didn't mean trust. It meant freedom for me. I leaned back in my chair, my eyes drifting to the lighthouse painting I'd hung in the office. Its beam cut through a stormy sea, a symbol of the light I'd held onto through this ordeal. That light had guided me to this moment, where justice wasn't just a legal win, but a reclamation of my worth. I thought of the small art exhibition I'd organized last weekend at a Portland gallery, showcasing my paintings to raise funds for a scholarship for women in consulting. The Seattle skyline sparkled under a crisp autumn sun, its towers reflecting a city alive with possibility. 6 months had passed since the North Star Enterprises pitch, a day that had shattered my past and ignited my future. From my corner office at Lighthouse Insights, I gazed out at the Puget Sound, its waters glinting like a promise. She'd even agreed to speak at a conference I was planning, a yearly event for women in consulting, set to debut next spring in Seattle. The conference idea had grown from my anonymous blog, where I'd shared my story of surviving Nathan's manipulation. The blog had struck a chord, with thousands of readers, mostly women, thanking me for helping them recognize toxic dynamics in their workplaces. Writing it was like painting, each post a brushstroke of truth, but it was also a bridge to others, a way to turn my pain into purpose. I thought of the jazz melody I'd played before the pitch, its soulful notes guiding me through fear. Music, art, writing, they were my anchors, weaving a tapestry of healing and growth. A new connection was weaving into that tapestry, too. David, a colleague I'd known for years, had recently joined Lighthouse as a senior analyst. Over coffee last week, we'd talked for hours, our conversation flowing from business to dreams to the quirks of Seattle's coffee culture. There was a spark, a warmth I hadn't felt in years, but I was cautious. My career, my mission, came first. Still, David's quiet respect for my vision, unlike Nathan's dismissive arrogance, was a reminder that trust could be rebuilt, slowly, on my terms. I opened my digital journal where I'd chronicled this journey. 6 months later, I typed, "Lighthouse thrives. Beacon app launched. Scholarship funded. Conference planned. I'm not just rebuilding, I'm redefining." The words were a vow, a reflection of the woman I'd become, but they also carried a quiet sorrow. Nathan's absence was a shadow, not of longing but of the loss of the man I'd thought he was. I didn't hate him. I'd moved beyond that. The divorce, handled by Michael Tran, my lawyer, had been a clean break, his evidence texts, audio, financial records censuring I kept everything I'd built. Nathan was gone, Chloe disgraced. Their plot a cautionary tale. I stood, walking to the window. Seattle's skyline stretched before me, a city that had witnessed my fall and rise. I thought of the nonprofit I'd partnered with, offering workshops to women entrepreneurs. The first session, held last week, had been a success, with participants like Mia sharing their dreams. Empowering them felt like painting a new canvas, one where every stroke mattered. I thought of Chloe's apology, which I'd accepted with boundaries, a lesson in forgiveness without vulnerability. Justice had been served, not with vengeance, but with purpose, with light. My phone buzzed again, an email from James Larson, Northstar's CEO. "Emma, your team's results are phenomenal," he wrote. "We're expanding the contract. Let's discuss next steps." The words were a testament to my work, to the trust I'd earned. I thought of the email I'd sent James after the pitch, addressing Nathan's collapse with professionalism. That move, like every step, had built this moment. Lighthouse wasn't just surviving. It was soaring. The legal battles were over, the divorce finalized, and Nathan's betrayal scheme with his assistant, Chloe, to sabotage me and steal the company was a fading scar. Lighthouse was mine, thriving beyond my wildest dreams, and I was no longer the woman who'd stood trembling in our apartment, swapping coffee mugs to survive. This was a new beginning, a chapter defined by growth, purpose, and the light I'd fought to reclaim. I returned to my desk, sketching ideas for the conference. Sarah's speech would focus on resilience, mine on strategy. I imagined Mia in the audience, her future bright. The scholarship, the app, the conference, they were my legacy, proof that pain could birth possibility. I thought of David, of the possibility of new beginnings, not just in work but in life. But for now, I was enough whole, strong, radiant. The lighthouse in my mind glowed, its beams steady. I thought of Sarah, Michael, Mia, the women I'd inspire. Nathan had thought he could dim my light, but he'd only made it brighter. As I closed my journal, the Seattle sun warmed the room, a promise of tomorrow. This was my new beginning, a life built on my terms. I was Emma Carter, the strategist, the artist, the lighthouse. And as I looked to the horizon, I knew the best was yet to come. My name is Emma Carter, and for a decade, I was the strategist behind Lighthouse Insights, the consulting firm Nathan and I built from our Seattle apartment. I crafted the solutions that won us clients, while Nathan's charm closed the deals. The North Star pitch, a 6-month labor of love, had been my triumph, securing a multi-million-dollar deal despite Nathan's plot to make me falter. His plan, exposed in messages I'd found the night before, collapsed when I turned his sabotage against him. Now, Lighthouse was a beacon in Seattle's tech scene, and I was its sole leader, building a legacy that reached far beyond our original dreams. The North Star project had exceeded expectations, delivering a 28% efficiency boost and saving the Boston-based company $4.2 million in its first phase. The success had ripple effects: 2 new contracts with major firms, a 45% revenue increase, and a team expansion that included 3 brilliant analysts I'd handpicked. But my proudest achievement was a mobile app I'd launched last month, designed to mentor young consultants. The app, called Beacon, offered strategy templates, career advice, and a forum for sharing experiences. I'd poured my heart into it, inspired by Mia, the North Star employee whose email after the pitch, "I want to be like you," had sparked my vision for giving back. Downloads were climbing, and users' messages, filled with gratitude, warmed my heart daily. I leaned back in my chair, my eyes drifting to the lighthouse painting on the office wall. Its beam cut through a stormy sea, a symbol of the resilience that had carried me here. That painting, born in the chaos of Nathan's betrayal, was now a touchstone, reminding me of the light I'd held onto. I thought of the small art exhibition I'd held in Portland, where my paintings raised funds for a scholarship for women in consulting. The scholarship, now fully funded, would launch next month, and I'd already selected its first recipient, a young woman from San Francisco whose application echoed my own hunger for opportunity. My phone buzzed, pulling me from my thoughts. It was Sarah, my best friend in San Francisco, who'd been my rock through the storm. Dinner tonight? Her text read. Celebrating your app's success. Sarah had flown in for the weekend, her unwavering support a constant in my life. I smiled, typing back. Absolutely. Can't wait. Sarah's belief in me had been a lifeline, from her encouraging texts during the pitch to her presence at my exhibition. The Seattle sunset painted the sky in hues of gold and crimson, its light spilling into my office at Lighthouse Insights, where I sat with a cup of tea, the city's heartbeat echoing my own. 1 year had passed since the North Star Enterprises pitch, a day that had shattered my past and forged a new path. The memory of Nathan's betrayal, his plan with his assistant, Chloe, to sabotage me with tainted coffee and steal the company had faded into a distant lesson. Gifting this new piece to the office felt like closing a circle, a way to honor the past while embracing the future. My team had cheered, their pride in our shared mission a warmth I carried daily. My latest venture was a podcast, Lighthouse Leaders, launched 2 weeks ago. Each episode featured women like Sarah, whose conference speech on resilience had moved hundreds, sharing stories of overcoming adversity. Recording it was intimate, like the jazz melodies I'd played to steady myself before the pitch. The podcast was climbing charts, its listeners a community of dreamers and doers. I thought of Mia, now a mentee, who'd pitched her first client last week, her confidence a spark I'd helped ignite. Empowering her and others through the scholarship and nonprofit workshops I led with Elena in Seattle was my way of paying forward the support I'd received. I opened my digital journal, a habit that had anchored me through the storm. 1 year later, I typed, Lighthouse shines, book published, podcast launched, legacy growing. The words were a reflection, but also a commitment. I thought of Sarah, whose texts and visits had been my lifeline, from her encouragement during the pitch to her laughter at our dinner last month. Of Michael Tran, my lawyer, whose expertise had secured my company with evidence texts, audio, financial records that left Nathan no defense. Nathan was a ghost now, his life a cautionary tale after the divorce stripped him of Lighthouse. Chloe, too, had faded, her apology a step toward redemption I'd acknowledged but not embraced. I walked to the window, Seattle's lights twinkling against the dusk. The city had witnessed my fall and rise, from the apartment where I'd swapped those mugs to this office, a symbol of my strength. I thought of David, the colleague whose quiet respect had blossomed into a cautious friendship. We'd shared coffee last week, our talk hinting at more, but I was content to let it unfold slowly. My heart, once broken, was whole on its own, fueled by purpose. The nonprofit workshops, the conference, the book, they were my love letters to the world, proof that pain could birth possibility. I thought of the San Francisco trip years ago, buying those matching mugs with Nathan, believing in forever. That memory no longer stung. It was a chapter, not the story. I'd learned to trust myself, to see betrayal as a lesson, not a verdict. The lighthouse in my mind glowed, its beams steady. It wasn't just a symbol but a truth. I was enough. I thought of the women reading my book, listening to my podcast, attending my workshops. Their dreams were my legacy, a light that would outlast me. My phone buzzed an email from James Larson, North Star's CEO. Emma, your leadership continues to impress, he wrote. We're renewing the contract with expanded scope. The words were a testament to the trust I'd built, from the pitch to the results. I thought of Mia, of Elena, of the countless others I'd inspire. The scholarship, the app, the conference, they were beacons, guiding others as I'd guided myself. I returned to my desk, sketching a new painting idea. A lighthouse at dawn, its light soft but sure. It was for me, a private celebration of this new beginning. I thought of the jazz that had carried me through fear, of Sarah's laughter, of Michael's calm advice. They'd helped me see my worth, but I'd claimed it myself. Nathan had thought he could dim my light, but he'd only made it brighter. His betrayal had been a storm, but I was the lighthouse, unyielding, eternal. I'd turned his scheme against him, swapping the mugs and delivering a pitch that won the deal and my freedom. Now, as I reflected on my journey, I saw not just survival but a legacy, a light I'd kindled to guide others through their storms. As I closed my journal, the Seattle night enveloped the city, It stars a canvas of hope. This was my legacy, not just a company, but a movement. I was Emma Carter, the strategist, the artist, the survivor. I'd turned pain into power, fear into freedom. And as I looked to the horizon, I knew my light would shine on, guiding others to their own new beginnings. My name is Emma Carter, and for over a decade, I was the strategist behind Lighthouse Insights, the consulting firm Nathan and I built from our Seattle apartment. I crafted the solutions that won us clients, while Nathan's charm sealed the deals. The North Star pitch, a 6-month labor of love, had been my triumph, securing a multi-million-dollar deal despite Nathan's plot to make me falter. His scheme, uncovered in messages the night before, collapsed when I claimed control, proving I was the true force behind Lighthouse. Now, 1 year later, I was no longer defined by that battle, but by the future I was building a legacy of empowerment, creativity, and truth. Lighthouse Insights had soared, its reputation cemented by the North Star project, which delivered a 30% efficiency boost and $5 million in savings. New contracts had doubled our revenue, and our team, now 10 strong, buzzed with innovation. My mobile app, Beacon, was a lifeline for young consultants, with over 10,000 downloads and stories of career breakthroughs flooding my inbox. The Scholarship for Women in Consulting, inspired by Mia, the North Star employee who'd looked up to me, had awarded its first grants, launching 3 young women into the industry. And the annual Women's Consulting Conference, co-hosted with Sarah, my best friend from San Francisco, had debuted to a sold-out crowd, with plans for a second event next spring. But my proudest creation was a book, published last month, titled Beacon Through the Storm. It wove my story betrayal, resilience, triumph with lessons on strategy and self-worth, illustrated with sketches of my lighthouse paintings. Writing it was like painting, each chapter a brushstroke of healing. Readers' letters poured in, women and men alike sharing how my words had inspired them to reclaim their voices. One, from a single mother in Portland, read, "Your story gave me courage to start my own business." Those words were my reward, proof that my light reached beyond Seattle's skyline. I stood, walking to the office wall where a new lighthouse painting hung, a gift I'd presented to Lighthouse's team at our anniversary celebration. Its beam pierced a turbulent sea, symbolizing the strength we'd found together. The original painting, the one I'd created the night I discovered Nathan's betrayal, was now in a Portland gallery, part of a permanent exhibit from my fundraising show. The Seattle skyline glowed under a twilight sky, its lights a constellation of dreams realized and battles won. Emma Carter stood in her office at Lighthouse Insights, her gaze tracing the horizon where the Puget Sound met the stars. 1 year ago, her world had teetered on the edge of collapse, shaken by a betrayal that cut deeper than any blade. Her anonymous blog, sharing lessons on spotting manipulation, and her mobile app, Beacon, mentored thousands, while her book, Beacon Through the Storm, and podcast, Lighthouse Leaders, inspired countless others. 1 year later, Lighthouse Insights was a titan, its North Star project saving $5 million and sparking new contracts. Emma's team grew, her conference for women in consulting sold out, and her scholarship empowered young women like Mia, the North Star employee who saw Emma as a role model. A cautious connection with David, a colleague, hinted at new possibilities, but Emma's heart was full, her light self-sustained. She gifted a lighthouse painting to her team, its beam a testament to their shared strength, and sketched new canvases, each one a vision of hope. Sarah's laughter, Michael's guidance, and the jazz that had carried her through fear were threads in her tapestry, weaving a legacy that stretched beyond Seattle. Emma's journey was not just a victory over betrayal, but a testament to the power of resilience. She'd faced the storm of Nathan's treachery and emerged not broken but radiant, her light brighter for it. The lighthouse, once a painting born of desperation, was now her truth a symbol of clarity, strength, and guidance. She'd learned that pain could birth possibility, that justice wasn't vengeance but reclamation, and that a single act of courage could rewrite a life. Her story, shared through her book, podcast, and workshops, was a call to others. You are enough. Your light is yours to claim. The lesson from Emma's journey is profound. Resilience is not the absence of pain, but the courage to rise through it, to transform betrayal into growth. For anyone facing their own storms, whether a toxic workplace, a broken relationship, or self, Doubt Emma's story offers a roadmap. Trust your instincts, as she did when she swapped the mugs. Build a support network, like Sarah and Michael, who lift you up. Document your truth, as Emma did in her journal, to anchor your resolve. And most importantly, create from your pain, whether through art, writing, or helping others, as Emma did with her scholarship and app. These steps turn victims into victors, shadows into light. In today's fast-paced world, where trust can falter and challenges loom, Emma's lesson is a lifeline. Start small. Journal your thoughts to clarify your path. Seek mentors who believe in you, and take one bold action, no matter how daunting. If you're stuck in a job that dims your light, channel Emma's strategy: prepare, protect, and pivot toward your strengths. If a relationship betrays you, choose boundaries over bitterness, as she did with Chloe. And if you dream of impact, build something: a blog, a project, a community that shares your light. Emma's lighthouse wasn't built in a day. It was forged through choices, each one a step toward freedom. As I closed my journal, the Seattle night wrapped the city in quiet embrace, its stars a canvas of hope. Emma Carter's story was my lighthouse, guiding me to see my own strength. Her legacy: Lighthouse Insights, Beacon, her book. Her voice was a reminder that we all carry a light, no matter the storm. She'd faced betrayal and built a movement, proving that the greatest triumphs come from within. Nathan, her husband of 10 years and co-founder of their consulting firm, had plotted with his assistant Chloe to sabotage her during a pivotal pitch to North Star Enterprises in Boston. His plan: lacing her coffee with a sedative to make her falter, was meant to humiliate her, paving the way for him to steal the company they'd built together. And as I looked to my own horizon, I knew her lesson would guide me. Rise, shine, and leave a legacy that lights the way for others. But Emma, armed with a strategist's mind and a survivor's heart, turned his treachery against him, swapping the mugs and delivering a pitch that not only won the deal but redefined her future. Her journey, a tapestry of pain, resilience, and triumph, was now a beacon for others, a lighthouse guiding lost ships to shore. Emma's story began in a cramped Seattle apartment, where she and Nathan founded Lighthouse Insights, fueled by instant coffee and ambition. For a decade, she was the unseen force, crafting proposals and strategies that won clients, while Nathan's charm closed the deals. The North Star pitch, a 6-month labor of love, was her masterpiece, a chance to secure a multi-million-dollar contract. But the night before, Nathan's phone revealed his true intentions. Messages with Chloe, mocking Emma's dedication, planning her downfall, and scheming to rebrand Lighthouse without her. The words, "She's clueless. After this deal, we're done with her," shattered Emma's trust. But they also ignited her resolve. She painted a lighthouse that night, its beam cutting through a stormy sea, a symbol of the strength she'd need to survive. The morning of the pitch was a masterclass in courage. Emma swapped the coffee mugs, her hands trembling but her mind clear, guided by a jazz melody that steadied her nerves. She called her lawyer, Michael Tran, and texted her best friend, Sarah, in San Francisco, building a safety net. As the video call with North Star's leadership, James Larson, Laura Bennett, and investors like Olivia Grant began, Nathan's sabotage backfired. The sedative meant for Emma clouded his mind, his words slurring, his confidence crumbling. Emma seized control, her interactive digital board and AI-driven proposal captivating the room. Her personal story, tying Lighthouse's mission to her own passion, won their hearts. Nathan's exit, stumbling and defeated, was the turning point. The moment Emma claimed her power. In the aftermath, Emma moved with precision. She secured evidence texts, audio, financial records, proving Nathan's betrayal and theft, while launching an audit that exposed his siphoned funds. Her email to James Larson, addressing Nathan's collapse with professionalism, ensured North Star's trust. Michael Tran's legal acumen delivered a swift divorce, granting Emma full ownership of Lighthouse, its clients, and her intellectual property. Chloe's career ended with her termination, though her apology, which Emma accepted with boundaries, marked a step toward healing. Emma's art exhibition in Portland, raising funds for a women's consulting scholarship, and her partnership with a Seattle nonprofit transformed her pain into purpose.